Hello, Fox Fairy, where I talk about marginalized subjects from a marginalized viewpoint, while I learn to draw. Hello, today we will be talking about what it means to be non-binary. Someone who is non-binary is neither a man nor a woman. So they identify at any point that is far enough away from either ends of the gender spectrum to be classified as a non-binary gender. So if you aren't all the way on the left or on the right of the gender spectrum, then you are non-binary. Normally, non-binary has two distinctions: nullsex or agender and duosex or bigender. There are also the idea of demigenders, but those are questionably accepted throughout some communities. We will be covering them in today's video, however, since this is not a discourse video, and this will just be presenting base information that doesn't inherently oppress someone else. What does dysphoria look like for non-binary people? Dysphoria, just to define terms, is the mismatch between someone's internal sense of self and their external body. Now, this could be your physical body or your social body. Basically, if someone refers to you with the gender that you identify with, and it feels more correct than if someone refers to you with the gender associated with your assigned sex at birth, then you probably have dysphoria. Dysphoria can present itself in two ways, and that's a negative reaction or a positive reaction. Dysphoria is complicated, and most of the time it is a negative reaction. People react with stress and anxiety and depression as a reaction to their body or their social perception of themselves not matching who they know they are on the inside, and it can be very frustrating for many individuals. However, for some people, they are conditioned to think that these are just regular anxieties that every person has, and they would have no way to identify that this is dysphoria. But when they are referred correctly, or when they make changes to how they look to feel more accurate to what they perceive their body as, and it makes them feel better, they don't recognize this as the alleviation of dysphoria, but the occurrence of positive emotion. This is called gender euphoria, and it is a type of gender dysphoria. It's just one of the many ways in which gender dysphoria can manifest itself to someone. What does dysphoria look like in nullsex or agender individuals? Someone who is agender or nullsex would feel most comfortable in a body that has a complete lack of sex characteristics. These include primary and secondary sex characteristics. So they would like a flat chest and flat lower body. They would like an ambiguous fat distribution. They would like no or little facial hair. As for secondary sex characteristics, they would likely like no nipples or very ambiguous nipples. They would like no or a smaller Adam's apple, things like that. Obviously, there are other primary and secondary sex characteristics, but those are the first off the top of my head that I can think of right now. Socially, they'd want to be perceived as ambiguous, so they would likely use they/them pronouns. And they would likely have a short haircut or wear pretty neutral, androgynous clothing. Socially, they'd like to be perceived as a person, not as a man or a woman. As for duosex or bigender individuals, primary sex characteristics they would likely like is a mismatching set. So they might prefer a flat top and an ambiguous bottom, or they might prefer a male or female top and a male or female bottom that don't match. As for secondary sex characteristics, they might prefer fat distribution that's both masculine in some places and feminine in other places. They might prefer a large Adam's apple or a small feminine Adam's apple. Obviously, again, those aren't all of the primary and secondary sex characteristics, just ones that might be preferred or not preferred by a bigender or duosex individual. As for socially, a duosex person might use they/them pronouns, or they might use he/she pronouns, or he/she/they pronouns. Non-binary dysphoria in particular is a unique situation because you're attached to some traits of your assigned sex at birth, and you are repulsed from some traits of your assigned sex at birth, or no matter what you do, you'll be repulsed from those traits. And you are attached to a standard that you can't find in biology easily. So alleviating this dysphoria can be complicated in both situations. For bigender individuals, parting with certain traits could mean causing more dysphoria. So going through a complete transition could cause dysphoria for specific traits that they had and euphoria for certain traits that they've obtained, and they need to find an easy middle ground. For nullsex individuals or agender individuals, it might be difficult for them because it's hard to look sexually ambiguous in most cases. Presenting and being shaped in a way that doesn't have any sexual connotations, it's difficult because almost anything can make you perceive sex from something. Because male and female bodies are very alike, but the things they have in common are oftentimes very different. Now, let's talk about demigenders, people who are a type of duosex or bigender that is closer to one end of the gender spectrum. Someone could be a demigender and experience dysphoria that, for example, would want them to have all female traits except for a male bottom, or all male traits except for a female top, etc., etc. They might socially want to present in one way, and that is a social construct. They might want to be perceived in one way, but they also want some traits of how they are perceived to be more ambiguous. It's a complicated subject, and not much research, if any research, has been done on the scientific backing for demigenders, but the current idea is that dysphoria is caused by differences in the size of different parts of the brain and gray matter, white matter distribution, and this is in multiple parts of the brain. Then if these traits are mismatching, then that could likely cause gender dysphoria. If these traits are mismatching, then that could likely cause gender dysphoria for a non-binary figure. However, these hypotheses haven't been presented to demigender people because it's such an obscure thought. Like I said, most people don't really know about demigenders, so you might want to do more research into your gender identity before settling with a demigender. However, I would say it's a perfectly valid conclusion to come to. Alright, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please subscribe, and check out my comment section where I have a Discord server and my Tumblr account free for you to check out. I gotta go now. I love you guys.